Welcome everybody to Tales from the Tackle Shop. We're still going strong-ish in some kind of lockdown nightmare, but we're doing it. So good evening, Alex. How are you?
Good evening, Andy. I'm alright, mate. I'm alright. I'm tired for some reason. I think it's used to not doing nothing. I think knackers you.
I don't know. I think it's being in this constant state of flux. We never know what's going on. I can't even remember what episode we're on. I think it's 14,
it's
15.
weird, isn't it? Every day is Groundhog Day, isn't it? It's like, especially with the weather and stuff like that. It's a bit. I don't know. What episode are we on? 10?
No, I think it's 14 or 15, but I'll find out as I'm doing the editing a bit later on tonight. We were just reminiscing. Last time we actually did a podcast was the Christmas special, so we obviously had a break over New Year, and then we went from tier 2 to tier 4.
Yeah, I think Boxing Day, everyone was, I'd planned to have 4 matches over the Christmas weekend. I thought, great, I got 4 days off. I'm going to do a match here, match there, match there. Obviously within tier 2. And then, what was it, Christmas Eve, something like that? We had all that rain, didn't we? God, I've never seen the venue so high. I mean, we've got to talk about that. I mean, that was phenomenal with the flooding and stuff, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I forgot about the flooding. Yes, we must talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You're right. So we had all that water come through. It's the 23rd, 24th, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's right.
It was bad.
Yeah.
Never seen March so high. Obviously, you can talk about how high it was near you. Just the drains and that at work were absolutely full to the brim. You know, these drains are probably 5-6 foot deep, and they were up to the top of the bank.
That's right. Do you know what? I forgot about that. So we had all that, didn't we? Then we went from because we kind of took the mickey out of tier 4, didn't we, on the podcast?
It was sort of tier 3. We were sort of like, oh,
that's right.
And then all of a sudden, we got from tier 2 to tier 4.
Like, plunged straight into tier 4 from tier 2.
Yeah.
So that was karma. That's right. And then we had all that floodwater still coming through, and then we went from tier 4 to complete lockdown and couldn't fish for a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that was on the Wednesday last week, and then the Thursday last week it was back on again, but with lots of restrictions, which we'll just clarify in a few minutes, because people might think it's confusing, but if you look on the website, it's very straightforward, and I'm going to read out what the guidelines are for everybody in a few minutes, so just to help everybody out.
Yeah. Just 2 seconds, Andy. Mum, I'm doing a podcast. All right. Yeah. Sorry, Andy.
You're all right, mate. I think we should leave that in. That'd be quite. Mum, I'm doing my podcast. Okay, so this is good. Let's go back then. So we had the last podcast just before Christmas. Then, of course, we had about a day's worth of. We had a whole day of rain, didn't we? On the 23rd, was it? Of December.
New Year's Eve, wasn't it?
Christmas Eve.
Sorry, Christmas Eve, yeah. I remember weighing in the over 60s match on the Wednesday, and it started raining at about 9 o'clock. And then I think that night we had that much rain quickly, didn't we? Heavens just opened, and I remember driving into work, and the track down to the work, that was all flooded. I was really worried that my bait ship was going to be flooded as well, but thankfully that somehow wasn't flooded, so I got away with that one. But yeah, it was noticeable. I mean, I had to go and pick some bait up ready for the Christmas period. You know, I thought I'd get some extra baits. I thought we'd be busy over Christmas with being in tier 2. I thought there'd be a few people out and about and a few matches and that. And just on the way through Ramsey, all Bury, all that there, the golf course was all flooded. I think there was like 3 or 4 diversions just to try and get to where I was going, and it's mad, really, absolutely mad. The state of the river was unreal.
Well, I remember I went somewhere on the 24th. I can't remember what it was now. I wasn't going. Obviously, we were still in tier 2 at the time. I was just driving somewhere, just locally, and I went over the bypass and looked at the river, and I thought that doesn't look good. And I shot home to check on my mooring, and it was just getting higher and higher and higher. And by late evening, I would say it was 5 foot higher than normal level. It was
Really?
crazy. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't just over the moorings; it was up the steps, up towards the higher level, high tier of the garden.
Mhm.
And yeah, I sort of measured it when after it receded, and it was well, it must have been a good 5 foot. It was incredible how much water had come through, and it was just very slowly creeping up and up and up. And I'm thinking, this is not good news. The boat's going to go in a minute. Everything's going to rip off. I mean, my mooring's absolutely knackered now because of the high level. It just lifted the whole thing up in the air. So
Right.
that's an expensive job for April, May time. So thanks for that, guys. Really appreciate that. But
Yeah.
my woes are nothing compared to those poor people that had their houses flooded over Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean,
Terrible.
I don't know what happened because the St Germans pump is the second largest pump in Europe,
Right.
and I think it can discharge 100 tons of water per second when it's on full bore, which is an incredible amount of water.
Yeah.
But the middle level commissioners are really, really good at keeping the water levels down, and something must have happened to catch them out. I don't know whether they suddenly had a load of extra water from further up on the system that they weren't accounting for, but I've never seen the water get that high so quick. And like I said, it was
No,
only
it must be a record, surely.
it's got to
How
be.
high it was.
It was only a day's worth of water, but it was alarming how long it took for the levels to stop rising. At one point I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, I'm going to lose everything here. And
Yeah.
I know the houses further down through town got flooded at the back, but yeah, it's crazy really. And of course it probably has taken over a week for the levels to get down to normal again.
Yeah. I think on some venues the levels are lower than normal. I think just so they don't get caught out again, probably. But
Did you see pictures of Welney on the
yeah,
on the old Bedford?
yeah. Well, I managed to get out over Christmas for the most serious match of all, the big head-to-head, me and my dad, bragging rights for the next year. And we went down Boxing Day. We normally have our annual bash, and went down Boxing Day. It was probably 2.5 foot above the platforms down there, on the Bedford where we was going to fish, because it's one of those venues that doesn't get affected by it,
No.
even though you walk literally up the flood bank and you've got miles and miles and miles and miles of water, and it was right up to the bridge. It was amazing, really was. But there's a few people walking about as well, and there was drones going everywhere where people were taking videos and stuff. But we didn't actually fish on Boxing Day because it was, well, my dad didn't have a platform, so that made it a bit awkward. So I said, right, we'll go and have a look at Well Creek. So we went down Well Creek, drove along it, and when you're not in a match and you've not got your peg, everywhere you look, you go, yeah, don't fancy that, don't fancy that. Whereas when you're in a match, you've got your peg, you've got to fish it, and that's it. Whereas when you've got all the river to choose from, you just can't make a decision where to go.
No.
And we drove all the way along it, had a look at 2 or 3 spots. There's someone sat there fishing at Nordelf, so we couldn't fish that. And then we went up to Salters Lode, and that was really windy and looked really cold. And I thought, Dad looked at me and went, nah, don't fancy this. So anyway, we settled on the Aqueduct. I thought, this looks all right, park behind your peg. Don't know too much about Well Creek. I'd heard a few things about that they're catching in places. So we set up. It looked a bit clear. I didn't see no fish top. So
For everyone listening, Alex is getting messages on his phone and it's just making it fall over.
He's selling stuff on eBay. And so he said, right, we'll start. So I plumbed up. I've never fished Well Creek before, and it was about, 3.5 feet deep, and it's very weedy still, which is quite worrying. I thought, I don't know. I'm not sure about this. I don't think we made the right call here. Anyway, after about an hour and a half, neither me or my dad had a bite. So at this stage, my dad's like, could be in here. All I need to do is just catch a little perch. You could see him trying his hardest, because I thought, he's not going to beat me. Anyway, we agreed 10 more minutes, and then, or next fish is the winner. And we sat there for 10 minutes, never had a bite, packed up, went home, and I think that night we was due some storm, whatever her name was. And I thought, Dad was not happy that we didn't catch, but he was happy that it was a draw, I think. But we sort of said, right, we'll go New Year's Day and we'll go back to Welney. And sure enough, we did. The water levels were back down. We sat to the left of the bridge. Just fished bread and casters. That's all I took, really. Dad fished his tares like he likes to. I think Dad had about 14, just over 14 pounds, something like that. And in 4 hours we fished, strict 4 hours, got to be back for tea. So had a lovely day's fishing. I think I had 17, nearly 18 pound on bread mainly, and a few on the casters. So had a nice day, caught all sorts of fish, nice stamp roach up to 4 ounce, big bleak as well, some real big bleak in there.
Really?
And kingfishers, and see a couple of otters in the morning. People about all day again, loads of drones about taking aerial footage and dog walkers and stuff. So we had a nice day and settled a few scores. So and to be honest, that is it. I've been over.
That is it.
That is it. It's don't know. Can't get motivated to do any sort of fishing at the minute, but I'm sure I will do. Sure.
It's a strange times, isn't it? Because the old Bedford was up to the top of that sluice gate at one point.
Really?
And I know I was looking on Facebook, which is obviously the oracle for everything you need to know. Yeah, I'm sure people were saying I think Alan Nelson was saying he's never seen it so high. So very strange for that little drain to get that high. I think something went wrong with the pumps at Welch's Dam. I think there was a short,
someone did. Someone told me that.
So whether they had a short circuit, I think they had a short circuit or something. So they couldn't. They struggled to get it out through Salter's Load now because it's so silted up. I think they have to get it back up through Welch's Dam into the Delf and then run it out that way.
Yeah,
I think that's
because it's very weird. You'd be sat fishing this bank, and naturally you'd think it would go to the left towards like the sluice gate almost and towards the wash, but it doesn't. It's a bit like Ramsey St Mary's. It goes the opposite way round.
Yeah.
So it goes left to right. The wind naturally pushes it to the left, but the flow's going to the right, and you get these real big waves then.
It used to run off really quite nicely out the normal way.
Yeah.
And you used to get your floats used to start wavering in the current, and it was really good time to be fishing it. And that was a long time ago, but I've never seen it run off like that for 10, 15 years. It's just because they've let it get so silted. It's a real shame down there. It's
full of fish though. Full of fish.
Well, it isn't there the bridge, but you walk 300 yards away, you catch bugger all because there's nothing there. But English Nature stopped the Environment Agency dredging it a long time ago because of the 3-spine stone loach.
Right, okay.
Which is understandable, but what it's done, it's the whole little drain is now choking itself to death.
Yeah.
Particularly down at Salt's Load, it's really bad. It's completely silted up. It's choking itself with weed, and it's basically a navigable river. So I know there's a bit of conflict between I don't know the correct organisational name, but the group that run the navigation within that area and what used to be called English Nature. I think there's a bit of conflict, and they're trying to. If they can open it up for navigation, it means they'll have to dredge it,
right?
Which would be very beneficial for the drain, for the Old Bedford itself, and for the fish stocks, because you get the lily pads come back and the Canadian pondweed.
Well, surely, like this year's a prime example. Then, if the pump's not working and it's all silted up, and just think what the water levels did. Surely it's a perfect. Say, look. Okay, we want to preserve the wildlife and stuff, but at the end of the day, this is the Fens and it's a flood area. We should be doing something about it.
Yeah, but you see, you're talking common sense, Alex. That's the problem.
And I read the sign at Welney. How many millions of pounds are spent on that flood bank?
30.
The other side of it.
I think it's 30 million. Yeah, I know. It's ironic. It's 30 million quid. And that drain was dug in 1700 and something by prisoners from the Jacobite Rebellion.
Right.
So it's one of the oldest drains in Finland. It's there
Yeah.
to keep the water levels down and to stop all the surrounding areas from being flooded. Yet they've let it get choked. So yeah, you're right. What you said is exactly spot on. But you're talking with common sense here. Whereas sadly, it's a bit like everything else that we've had recently with these otters being released and the whole caboodle. It's people aren't talking about common sense. They're talking about things that are nicey, but don't actually help in the long run. So it's a shame because it's a lovely river or drain, and it used to be the wildlife on there used to be even better because it had even more things going on, but it's just got choked sadly. But yeah, lovely little place, and still got some fish near the bridge, so that's quite cool. Sadly, did you see all the cormorants try and land while you were there?
Yeah. There was quite a few about.
Yeah.
I think the fact there was a lot of people about, they didn't get too near the bridge, but they were flying about all day.
Yeah, they wanted to get in there, didn't they? Because I went for a walk down there and I managed to scare a few off. But when the lockdown was announced, I thought, well, that's somewhere that's going to get absolutely muddered by these cormorants. But thankfully, things changed on Thursday. So I know some of the local guys will be down there because the roach fishing is quite nice at the minute. So that's really, really good. So just to finish off with Welney, you caught on caster.
Mainly on bread, just fed bread and fished 4 or 5 mil bread punch, then fished casters at about 11 metres.
Nice.
So yeah, something a bit different.
Yeah.
Comfortable fishing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Magic little drain. It's a shame it's let to get like it has, and that's no disrespect to Welney or Kings Lynn who have the fishing rights. It's completely out of their hands, sadly. Oh, so you beat Dad. When was the last time he beat you in the biggest match of the year? 1992?
No, it would have been about 4 then. He might have beat me then. No, I don't know. He did beat me 1 year, I think.
Did he?
I can't remember where it was.
Oh.
I think it was on Whittlesea Bower, but it must be at least 10, 11 years ago.
I did walk behind him recently, but we won't talk about it.
No,
we won't talk about that. I shocked him about 3 or 4 days ago. He fell in, but it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Okay. Let's just go back to the COVID situation because I've got in front of me the lockdown guidelines from the 8th of January. So I know there's been an awful lot of confusion about what you can and what you can't do. I'll give you an example. Obviously, was it Tuesday night last week? We heard it was like complete lockdown, no fishing, blah, blah, blah. And I had a water emergency in a rental house of mine in Wisbech. I had to shoot over to Wisbech on Wednesday. Had this water banging out everywhere, obviously, which I was allowed to do during the lockdown. And I saw on Facebook that 2 guys were fishing near the bypass at Chain Bridge. So I popped down, and John Watson was also doing something, and he popped down at the same time. We spoke to the 2 guys and explained to them that fishing had been banned. At the time, we were correct in what we were saying, and we said to the guys, look, don't want you to get a fine, just to let you know. And the 2 guys who were fishing they checked off the first briefing notes on the Monday where it looked like angling was still going to be allowed as a form of exercise.
Right.
So we explained to them that, didn't want them to get a fine and blah, blah, blah. And they're 2 local chaps, elderly chaps from the surrounding area, and they just thought, oh no, they packed up really quick and they went. I feel a bit bad because within 24 hours, things have changed, so you can now go fishing again. So I've been trying to get, I don't know who these 2 guys are, but I've been trying to put things up on social media to sort of see if they can see it and say that things have changed again. Hopefully someone's mentioned it to them. But I've got in front of me here just the guidelines from the Angling Trust, and I'm just going to tell people what is happening, particularly with the distance you can travel, because I know the travelling side of things is a little bit confusing. But let me just go down this. Can we still go fishing? Yes, once a day, locally, and only with one other person from outside your household or support bubble. So that hasn't changed. Can we go sea fishing? Yes, once a day locally, and the same thing again, and only with one person from outside your support bubble or household. Can we go fishing from boats? Yes, DEFRA have confirmed that fishing in the sea or in fresh water from private boats can be considered exercise and is permitted. Why can't we night fish? Because exercise is limited to once a day, so no overnight fishing whatsoever. This does not stop you fishing for an hour or so after dusk, but fishing through the night is no longer permissible. And that's common sense again, because obviously then not fishing for a day, you're then carrying over at night. It's just going to cause extra problems. And it's basically, if something happens to you when you're out and about, someone's got to come and help you, and it adds to the risk, doesn't it? Can we fish matches? No. Organised sporting gatherings are prohibited, so there's no match fishing. So I think that's pretty much how it was before, and that's fairly straightforward and common sense. Now this is the bit I think that confuses people. How far can we travel to go fishing? Only local travel is permitted for the purpose of daily exercise as set out in the government's travel guide, and there's a link which I'll tell people about in a minute. This goes on further. It says this specifies the local area, i.e. the town, village or part of the city in which you live. However, there is a recognition that there will be a need to travel for outdoor exercise. This should be done locally wherever possible, but you can travel a short distance within your area to do so if necessary. So, anglers will need to apply common sense and judgment in defining their local area rather than fixating on parish boundaries. A lake or river in a neighbouring parish may well be closer than one on the other side of the same town. In short, you should be fishing your nearest available waters. If you have no local fishing available, then you will have to take your daily exercise in other ways. So, I think that's fairly straightforward. Basically, if you've got something very close, mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, I think you can access it. If it's any further than that, you've got to start asking yourself, is that local? Is it in the same town or village or part of the city?
Yeah.
And I think that's where anglers need to really sort of think carefully about this. Travelling 20 or 30 miles is completely not acceptable. That isn't local. So you can't travel that far to go fishing. But if you've got something local on your doorstep, you can go. If you haven't, it's a shame, but you're just going to have to take your daily exercise in other ways. Now, that's not my take on it. I've read this straight from the Angling Trust guidelines, and people can find that by going onto... I basically went onto the Angling Trust Facebook page, and there's a link to all this documentation on there. So if you go on Facebook, find the Angling Trust, and you'll scroll down. You haven't got to go too far at all. And this was under the FAQs, the frequently asked questions section, about the new guidelines for lockdown. So hopefully I've explained that quite clearly to everybody. Some people are going to miss out, and some people are going to be okay. And I'm afraid there's not much we can do about that. But this is quite serious, isn't it? Because I know in 3 boroughs in London, I think the infection rate is 1 in 16 at the minute. And other areas in London, I think we were talking about this earlier, it's 1 in 30, isn't it? And I think across the country, the infection rate is 1 in 50. And things are pretty serious, well, very serious. And in order to keep angling open, everybody just needs to adhere to the most recent guidelines. So hopefully I explained that quite clearly. Now, fisheries. Fisheries are not on the list of businesses required to close. Camping, chalet accommodation, clubhouses or social facilities of any kind cannot open, though on-site toilets with appropriate hand sanitising can remain in place, and so forth and so on. Tackle shops are classed as non-essential business and must close, but they can still offer a click, call and collect service. So maybe this is a perfect opportunity for Alex just to explain what you're doing at Rookery.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we'd sort of planned for total lockdown for how long it is. Got a few jobs planned. turned all the fridges off that were needed, kept one or two on, cleaned down, and got ready for, you know, the long haul. And then there was sort of rumours coming through on Wednesday night, I think it was, Thursday morning, saying that Angling Trust have maybe got fishing back on again. So it was a bit like, you know, I can't see it. It wasn't allowed in the first lockdown. Next thing you know, midday, Angling Trust announcing it everywhere. Fishing's back on, which, you know, well, fair play to the Angling Trust for getting it. I mean, golf isn't one of the sports that's allowed, and as we all know, golf is very similar to the sort of social distancing as what fishing is. Probably not as such, as we all know. You know, fishing's very safe, and so yeah, it was sort of like, right, Thursday afternoon, got the one-way system back in place. But these codes have been in and out all year so far. Done all them, filled all the dip tanks back up again, put the disinfectant in, brought the till back downstairs, the carb machines back downstairs. Yeah, I mean, it didn't take a lot to do. Obviously, we're quite fortunate at the fishery that we're sort of, there's plenty of space, and most of it's parking behind your peg, so you can just drive down. You don't have to get out of your motor. We come to the bottom of the stairs. If you've got any bait and stuff like that you want, we run upstairs and grab it for you, or call before, and pay for your fishing, dip your net, and off you go. And it's, you know, it's really straightforward.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a few fisheries that haven't opened, and most of them have. So it's another positive for the angling trade and for angling in general, really. I mean, okay, the weather's not particularly brilliant at the minute, but I think as the weather warms up and improves, I think you'll see more and more anglers getting back onto the bank and realising what it's all about.
Yeah.
So fair play to Angling Trust, to be honest. I know they get a lot of bad press and different bits and bobs, but on this one, you can't fault them, really. So fair play.
No, they've credits where credit's due, and during these lockdowns, I don't think the new CEO Jamie Cook, who we actually had on towards the end of last season's podcast,
Yeah.
I don't think he would have ever envisaged having to deal with this in his kind of first few
No.
months of tenure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think overall they've done a really good job. It must have been incredibly difficult, and let's face it, I think you can't criticise anybody doing this lockdown, because pandemic rather, but doing the 3 lockdowns, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And at least people are trying to do things to keep things moving, which is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Credits, and also like businesses like yourself, you've had to.
Well, we have to. I mean, people say, "Oh, the Angling Trust can't tell you what you can and can't do. Who are they, and all this and blah blah blah." Well, the first person I looked for fishing and stuff like that and guidelines is the Angling Trust. So, to be honest, it's all there to hear what you can do. It's straightforward. Who else is going to do all this? Do you know what I mean? The Angling Trust have done it the best they can, and like I say, fair play to them. We were sort of hanging on the fence. As soon as they announced that we're going into lockdown, it was like a million phone calls. Are you allowed to open tomorrow? We don't know. We know as much as you do, mate. Do you know what I mean? I've read it in the Sun that, well, we don't know yet, mate. You know, just hang fire. As far as we know, fishing's banned. And then obviously on Thursday, the phone calls are ringing back again. Is fishing allowed? Are you open? Are you open? So for the short-term hassle, it sort of worked out all right in the end.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, I'm not going to get into ins and outs about how many members the Angling Trust got, blah, blah, blah. The facts are that Sport England, who are the government's kind of regulatory body that speak to all the national governing bodies like the Rugby Football Union, the English Cricket Board, they recognise the Angling Trust as the national governing body for angling, which means that they carry clout with MPs as the national governing body. So because the Sport England recognise them as this. That's the way it is at the minute, and they've done a bloody good job. And I think credit is due. You know, where it is, and it's just been. It must have been some of the conversations they've had to have must have been quite bizarre, really, over the last few months about everything.
Yeah.
But you see, angling's a very safe pastime to take forward during a lockdown, because you can isolate so easily, can't you? You can just go out,
You can.
and you can do it locally. If for most of us, some people can't, and you can just, you know, for mental health and well-being, you can get out there and relax and de-stress during a very stressful time. And,
I think, you know, for example, like someone like my granddad, I mean, he is self-isolating, shielding. He is, you know, he is kept away from everyone. But when we first come out of lockdown 1, you know, he could drive to our fishery, drive round, say hello, you know, drive straight to his peg, do his day's fishing, enjoy his day out, go straight home, doesn't need to go in any supermarkets or shops or anything, goes home, and you can't get any safer than that, can you?
No.
You know, and he's still got his peace of mind, he feels like he can carry on with his life, and whereas at the minute he is sat at home, and like a lot of people are, and the weather's pants, and you know, it is like Groundhog Day. You know, the same old rubbish on TV and stuff like that, and it starts to get on you. I mean, it does definitely. This COVID thing's getting on everyone. You know, and think how hard it is for someone like that. You know, and fishing is a massive relief for them, isn't it?
yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. The next thing we need to mention, Alex, is some sad news. I read, was it yesterday, day before, the sad passing of Paul Spriggs.
Yeah, very sad news, mate. Everyone in the local area would know Paul very well from his time at Mark 1. I think he's been there for years and years and years. And, you know, I've known Paul in my match fishing career from the first time I joined Mark 1. And, yeah, really, really sad, mate. You know, you've had sort of Mick Asker die this year, and now Paul Spriggs, which was really all of a sudden, passed away on Thursday, I think it was. Was it Thursday? Yeah, I think Thursday was when I heard the news, and yeah, just really, really sad. He was one of them people that, you know, never had a bad word to say about anyone. You know, he could have an absolute terrible day's fishing, but you know, you see, he just enjoyed being on the bank, and he'd be there till the end. He never packed up early. He's one of them people that you sort of, he could adapt to anything, really. I think what always impressed me with Paul was how good he was on a waggler. He was very good at waggler fishing and very precise, and you know, you can tell in his job everything was dead accurate, and yeah, just really sad, really, and you know, wish the family well and that, and all the Mark 1 lads as well, because it's you know, it's a hard one to take, really, mate. It is a hard one, and
yeah. But you're exactly right. I only knew him recently, and you were so spot on about how articulate and his perfection is, because I actually first met him when I think he worked for Key Kitchens, and
yeah, he's still did, yeah.
Yeah, and he came round to actually put right some mistakes that some of the fitters had made, and he spent a couple of days in my house just being, it was a privilege to meet him. And he just was so precise about everything he was doing. I'm looking at what he did now, it sort of brings back some memories, and I thought, what a lovely man. And then obviously I met him as we were doing last year's podcast we did the March Open, and he was the first person I went to have a chat with, because I knew he'd just be full of energy and very positive, and he was beaming because he had a lovely day's fishing, and when I read it end of last week, I just thought, wow, we've lost a true gentleman. So our condolences to his family and also his friends, because I should imagine he will be very deeply missed by everybody.
He will, mate.
Yeah, so sad times. Okay, right. Just to finish off then, so these podcasts are for people to just realise they're becoming quite difficult for us with the logistics of it, particularly with the different lockdown restrictions, and we're trying our best to adhere exactly to the travel restrictions we have in place. So we're trying not to break any lockdown guidance and laws. So we're doing that quite well. But I think, Alex, to try and liven things up, you're going to take a camera into the tackle shop for us.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best, mate. I can't promise being very good, but I'm sure my dad can give me a hand in certain bits as well. But yeah, we've got plenty of time in the afternoons to crack on with a few bits and bobs, mate. So we're going to do some videos. Hopefully you can sort them out when I drop the camera back off or whatever. But yeah, we'll I'll do my best anyway.
Cool, well, that'd be great, because yeah, if we can give us some little tours around the tackle shop and we can have a little look at what you're doing, that'd be fantastic. And we'll try and make things a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more invigorating, because this is obviously, we can't wait to get back to the good old days when you can come round, sit around my kitchen table and we can talk nonsense for an hour and a half, but have a laugh about it, because it's just so much more fun and it's so much easier to do. But we will get back to that probably in 2023. But thanks for doing that. Just one thing that I've been doing, I've been trying to produce some short videos on bait finesse system, BFS, which for those that don't know it's come from Japan. It's basically fishing with very small lures for perch, zander and small pike. I mean, I suppose you could target big pike with it, but it just, I wouldn't, but maybe some expert BFS fishermen say you can, I don't know. But I'm just trying to put together a kind of a journey. So I've started from scratch with budget kit. I'm just trying to put a few videos together over the next 2 or 3 months before the close season. Hopefully, as long as we can still fish and not completely locked down, because obviously last week put a complete spanner in the works as far as that was happening, but I've managed to get it going again. So hopefully over the next few weeks we can get out and about and do a little bit with that. So we might be able to drop something into the podcast if we're doing it. And yeah, also something else we spoke about, which we've got to try and work out the logistics. Maybe if we can get you fishing on your local water, because technically I suppose, I don't know if Welney would be too far off the guidelines I've just spoken about, but your local water is going to be, you're only a mile or two away from the old course of the Needle, the 20 foot, aren't you? So
yeah, about 50-50. I'm in the middle between the two, yeah. So
I think adhering to the guidelines, you could fish either. So maybe, again, if we can get a camera on you down there, you could do a little bit on, I don't know, something, and we could show it on the podcast as well. So that would be pretty cool as well. Lovely stuff. Right, buddy, is there anything else that you'd like to mention tonight?
No, I think we didn't think we had a lot to talk about, but I think it's over probably 40 minutes that we've got, so...
Oh, we can talk all night about fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, it is mad, isn't it? We still find absolute, some bits and pieces just to talk about. And like I said, it's such a shame that we can't have you around and doing it properly, but we will get there. All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us. You stay safe, and your dad.
And you, mate.
Yeah, and you keep going. Everything, and we'll wrap it up. So this has been Tales from the Tackle Shop, a Fenland Fishing TV production.